children and they feel guilty and responsible for their lives to move on, as well as since they no longer have a mother figure. And the person's been crying all week and they're trying to be strong for their children. Do you have any advice for this person? Is there something that their wife or their spirit guide wants them to know? And is this part of their process of going through the eye of the needle? How do they proceed from here?
All right, well, we are not going to necessarily interrupt their grieving period. They must let go of their fear-based beliefs about the situation in whatever timing they feel they can manage. But at the same time, know that this was all done in terms of an arrangement of timing, and that the loved one in spirit can still aid and assist and send messages and love to those still physical. But the idea is guilt does not serve the children that you are responsible for. It will actually prevent you from giving them what they need. There is no reason for you to be guilty. The idea is that this would not necessarily have come to pass if you couldn't handle it, if this wasn't by an arrangement and an agreement. We would suggest you reach out to your wife, knowing that the sooner you can relax the feelings of grief, use an opportunity for you to align with Spirit more strongly, to receive more messages from her, to receive guidance from her and your spirit guides in terms of what you and the children may require for your continuation on earth. And know that she is always with you, unconditionally loving, sending energy, sending help. More likely you will receive these in dream time. But look around with open eyes at the synchronicities in your life, knowing that many of them may be coming from her as messages to you. Relax your heart and open your heart to receive these messages in the best way you possibly can by looking around and being alert and paying attention to the synchronicities that will crop up in your life, allowing you to move forward in an easier way. We would suggest that you take some time for yourself to visit places that were of interest to both of you when she was alive, knowing that in those places that you love to be together in, there may be more receptivity on your part. And even though you may be crying, know that this is a release and a letting go and an accepting, eventually, of the situation at hand that you have both agreed to for the purpose of stretching you and your children towards spirit, knowing that one of the parents is now in spirit, can help you all progress and ascend and accelerate your learning and your lives and enrich your lives in a number of ways. Explore the idea with your children of communication with spirit, for it is as real as any form of communication, and perhaps in some cases even more real, as you understand that term. But work together with the children to open up in beautiful places to the idea that you can receive messages through synchronicity and in dreams, and maybe in other ways as well. And remember her favorite things. For when you do remember her favorite things, again, you may relax and open your heart to receive more information from her. These would be the things for now that we would suggest to help you through this particular period until such time as you yourself become more accustomed to realizing that as long as you consider this to be a loss, as long as you define it as a loss, then you will only continue to grieve each and every time that your wife may actually reach out to connect to you. You will only interpret her energy as a loss and feel more grief. But if you understand that sometimes what you may feel as grief is simply your interpretation that she is gone, instead of your interpretation that she is there with you and helping you. Allow yourself to relax that definition so you can receive the help she is giving, the help she is sending, the information she is sharing with you. That will lead you forward. This is what we have to say at the moment.
What is the difference between guilt and responsibility when it comes to dealing with family members? I've tried to maintain the relationships, but they are no longer exciting. Continuing with these relationships feels heavy and burdening, yet I feel guilt for keeping my distance. I, of course, love them, yet prefer to focus on my own self-discovery. Can you help me in this scenario?
Now, there are two ways to address this. Number one, if you feel it is absolutely true for you to not interact physiologically with these people because you are vibrationally so incompatible that it simply makes no sense to do so, that is a choice you can make. And again, by doing so, it can be the most loving thing you can do by showing them the consequences of not choosing to match your frequency and maintaining the connection on their part. At the same time, if you truly are in touch with yourself and the vibrational state you know is true for you, then in some senses it wouldn't necessarily matter if you maintain a connection physically with them, because it won't affect you. You will not feel guilty. You will just be yourself, and you will know that you're acting as a living example to demonstrate to them different choices they could make. Whether they choose to do so or not is not the point. The point is that you may give them a choice. You may give them an opportunity to choose something different by maintaining a physical connection and not being affected by anything that is vibrationally incompatible with what you prefer to be. But again, it is up to you to decide when you have reached a limit, when you have realized that they may simply not choose to change and may in fact actually push you away by resenting the idea of what you are showing them. And that might be your signal that physical connection may need to cease. So you need to simply prepare yourself to make a choice by first and foremost getting a stronger connection in yourself about what is true for you. Feeling guilty about this will only connect you more to the vibration you say is incompatible and that you don't prefer. So that makes no sense for you to feel the sense of guilt, because all you're doing is accepting the idea that they resent that you are changing. They resent that you are different, perhaps because it acts as an example to them of things they were not willing to face within themselves. You can act as a living example if you maintain your vibration of preference, but again, you don't have to, because even if you don't, it still serves as an indication to them of what choices they have made and the consequences of those choices relative to maintaining a physical relationship with you. So if they wish to do so, they would have to change. Not that they will, but they would have to do so.
How does that apply in a situation where a person has had an abusive childhood and now their aging parents are requiring their support and their attention, and the person feels guilty because they're not willing to be physically present with their parents under the circumstances because of the past?
Again, it's the same that we just said. If you maintain a strong sense of your vibration and at the same time realize that you can be of some assistance to someone, if it is truly true that they need that assistance, you must make that determination for yourself as opposed to things they can do for themselves or not. So if you have determined that you have made a familial connection by being born to these people, and that there is something you could truly help them with to aid and assist them in whatever they're going through, whatever process they're going through, and yet at the same time maintain the strength of your connection to who you truly are, then you will not be negatively affected by whatever behaviors they may choose to exhibit, knowing that you are being of great assistance to them if they truly need it, and that is the most important thing, is to demonstrate to them the unconditional love that you know can be expressed by you to truly aid and assist them if they truly require it, and at the same time not be negatively affected by whatever their reactions or responses or behaviors may be in that circumstance and situation. And it gives you an opportunity to practice letting go of the idea of the past, since again, if you realize many of the things we have been sharing with all of you, there in a sense is no such thing. You are recreating the idea of abuse in every moment in the present out of your own need to do so. So discontinue your need to hang on to the idea of the abuse because of your belief systems that you may require it for some reason, that it serves you in some way. And when you let that go, you will be able to stand in the face of great opposition, and you will be able to face those fires with coolness and calm them down within yourself, regardless of what the other people may choose to do.
And we've noticed that often when parents get elderly, they get early signs of dementia or behaviors that could be suggestive of dementia. And that part of that can be being abusive and impossible to deal with, in a sense, irrational in their behavior. Is that, again, this idea of stepping outside of the issues of abuse from the past and simply recognizing that the person is not themselves, in a sense?
Yes.
When they're elderly.
Yes, and if they are experiencing the symptoms you have described, they are usually making their transition, whether quickly or slowly, into spirit, but they may be momentarily confused about what is real, because they are bordering two realities, the physical and the non-physical. And therefore, you can recognize and excuse their behavior as one of confusion. And again, if you stay strong within yourself and know what your truth is, it will not affect you any more than a stranger making an irrational statement would, because they have become strangers to you and you to them in many ways.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Can you talk to us about the inherent guilt surrounding religion? This person says, I was brought up in a Jewish tradition, and it's been a long road in terms of shedding guilt. Guilt if you're happy, guilt if you're healthy, guilt if you're wealthy, guilt if the other shoe is going to drop. I would love for you to talk about untangling this kind of guilt.
All right. Well, first and foremost, it's not inherent. It's taught. That's a major distinction to make. And therefore, it can be untaught. It's simply about recognizing whether or not the guilt serves you. As we have talked about the motivational mechanism, please do remember, you absolutely do nothing that you don't believe serves you in some way. So this is about really doing an honest, deep investigation of what it is you believe you're getting out of having the guilt. What does it allow you to experience or not experience that makes you feel safer in having it than in letting it go? This requires a very deep and honest investigation of self in order to admit that if you're holding on to guilt and keep repeating it, no matter how much you were taught it, if you're now able to discern the difference between guilt and freedom, guilt and love, then you have the ability to dive into your motivational mechanism and ask yourself why you would be motivated to continue to perpetuate something if it doesn't really serve you. Because the only way you would keep feeling it is if you believe it does. So it requires a lot of transparent self-investigation to ask the question, what am I getting out of continuing to hold on to guilt? There must be something about holding on to it that makes me feel safer than the alternative. And if you're willing to investigate and go down that path, you will eventually be able to pick it apart and figure out why you're holding on to the guilt, because you think there's some advantage to doing so. Otherwise, you would not feel it at all.
How can we be at peace with the idea that we may have hurt, wronged, or made mistakes with others along the way on our learning journey? How can we release those feelings of guilt and regret about the impact we've had on other lives that may have been negative so that we can move forward in a more aligned way?
Well, the idea is self-forgiveness and the recognition that if you know you made a mistake, so to speak, and are willing to correct it in your own energy and not make the same mistake again and not be abusive to other people in that way because you recognize it is out of alignment with who you prefer to be, then you have corrected the energy and there's no reason for guilt. Guilt perpetuates the idea of the misalignment. So why would you hold on to the idea of misalignment if you recognize that you were misaligned and don't prefer to be misaligned anymore in your behaviors and actions? Why hold on to any remnant of the misalignment which you would experience as guilt if you truly wish to move forward? If you recognize you were misaligned and have a desire to realign yourself and correct the mistake in some way, shape, or form, then there is no vestige of guilt that would remain if you've actually done that. So you can't really move forward until you accept that you made a mistake and now you wish to correct the mistake and the energy within yourself and bring yourself back into alignment.
And along those lines, are there any experiences that are more or less spiritual than others? Is it possible to do a good, bad, better, or worse job with our lifetime? And is there really a mistake? Can we really get this wrong? A lot of these ideas perhaps bring about a lot of self-judgment, so that's why this person is asking the question.
Ultimately, no. You are not judged by all that is or anything except yourself. Ultimately. But there is still the ability to recognize what it is you prefer, what it is you don't, what it is that is vibrationally representative and compatible with who you prefer to be, and when you are in alignment or out of alignment with that. That is the only thing that could be considered a mistake, even though it's not meant in the traditional sense. In other words, a mistake is simply a recognition, an alignment energy that allows you to recognize that you may have been out of alignment with who you really, truly, at your core, are and prefer to be. Oneness and alignment and harmony with all that is. So a mistake, ultimately, no, is something that can be used as a learning experience, a teaching experience, to reflect back to you that you may not necessarily be operating in the state of being you prefer to. And in that sense, if you learn the lesson from that and recognize the truth of that and bring yourself back into alignment, then you have used the so-called mistake in a way that makes it not a mistake, because you've used it in a way that brings you back into harmony, into alignment. So ultimately, no. But in the moment, you can simply recognize and use your words, whatever words you wish to use to identify the misalignment, to bring yourself back into alignment.